Hey, so I've got Dr. David Smith with me, who's an academic GP trainee and also a member of the BMA GP Trainees Committee. And we've asked him just to tell us a bit of an idea of how he got involved in medical leadership. So first, David, could you tell me what's your current role within medical leadership?
So as mentioned, I'm an academic GP, so I'm ST3, so I'm still training, but I'm involved in the GP Trainees Committee of the BMA, specifically with a portfolio looking at terms and conditions for GP trainees across all of the 4 nations.
Fantastic. And how did you get involved in that sort of role?
So when I was an F1, there was a poster on the wall in the doctor's mess advertising the BMA's junior doctor conference, and it was 2 days off work, all expenses paid. I thought, yes, this is perfect. So I signed up for that and went down thinking, cool, 2 days off work. And actually, when I got to the conference in London, there were loads of really exciting people really passionate about making a change, and they absolutely sucked me in. And then sort of like 5 or 6 years later, I'm still doing bits and pieces and trying to make a difference. So it started with trying to get a day off work, and it's now ended in me involved in all these different committees all across the country.
That's fantastic. And so how did you get involved in the different types of committees, and what sort of role do you do?
So within the BMA, there's generally a lot of elections for things, but it's quite easy to put yourself forward, and relatively easy to get elected for them as well. So I kind of encourage people, who are involved in the BMA and other structures like that, like the RCGP and those sort of things, if they're interested in making a change, to put themselves forward, nominate themselves for these positions, and run an election and sort of see where you get. So I've done that a fair few times now. I've been involved with the Junior Doctors Committee directly, and we were involved in the contract negotiations. So back in 2018, 2019. So I was involved in the team that kind of supported that. So some of the changes to the junior doctor contract with the GP trainee focus, things like mileage and things like that, in England, I helped make those changes, which I'm really proud about. And right now I'm looking at GP trainees, mostly in England, if I'm honest, but across all 4 nations. But looking at why GP trainees make the choices that they make in regards to careers, and specifically post-CCT careers, and the number of sessions that they take, things like that.
Fantastic. And how do you think that impacts on your clinical role with patients?
Really well, actually. I think it complements it really well. So there's 2 things I take away from it. The first one is doing these extra roles and kind of try and make a difference, and trying to make the system better is really fulfilling, and I think it makes a bit of a sustainable career, because you're doing some clinical work, but also a lot of kind of advocacy work and stuff that really kind of recharges the batteries a little bit, and keeps that kind of fire going that kind of can be put out a little bit kind of post med school. So from that point of view, it's really useful, but also because I spend a lot of time kind of doing some medical political stuff, and you've got to spend a lot of time explaining concepts and trying to get across like thoughts and ideas and arguments a little bit to people across the table. It means you develop the really good communication skills, which we're all good at as GPs anyway, but you get to hone them a little bit more. And I think that my patients maybe are happy that I've taken the time that kind of to explain those concepts a little bit more to them. And because I've had that experience doing it, it hopefully comes across a little bit better.
And tell us, what do you think the pros and cons are in being in this sort of portfolio role?
So again, the pros would be, it develops that sustainable career, as I've said. And it really does. It means that, you're not getting burnt out with just doing clinical stuff. It means that you get to use kind of a little bit of your imagination sometimes, and there's like some novel problem solving goes on when you're kind of looking at some kind of political and sort of policy making things that I think is really useful. It goes from kind of just like having a bit of a moan about stuff down the pub to actually changing it into making a difference, and that's really empowering. And I think it does build a really sustainable career. So they're kind of the major pros of doing things. Cons, it takes a lot of time, so you kind of do have to be pretty good with your time management, but I think GPs are anyway naturally, so that's quite good. And yeah, when you start to make a difference, it's quite addictive. You know, you do want to get involved in more things and take on more aspects of things. And sometimes you do just have to remind yourself that you can't change the world on your own. So you do have to just take a step back sometimes. But yeah, I'd really encourage it to anyone. I'd really encourage anybody who's interested in doing it to get a little taster for those roles and to get involved and try and make that difference.
And so where do you think it will take you in your future career? As you're a trainee now, what are you going to do next?
I mean, clearly Prime Minister. Can I say that? Is that too like forward? No, I won't be. I think that it'll be really useful, for looking at partnership for me. Kind of that's what I want to do. I want to be a GP partner. I think these kind of roles will be really important. Looking at things like ICSs and local care systems, getting involved in those, be like a local clinical director and things. There's a lot that we can do for our patients in a local and regional basis if GPs are more involved in shaping those services. And I think if you get that experience and you've had a little taster of how those things work, you can make those changes. You can sort of grease the wheels a little bit more and help make those changes for your patients. So some sort of regional sort of change is what I'd like to push for in the future.
Fantastic. And so if you were to give any tips to anyone out there, either a GP trainee or a GP who's qualified, who wanted to get involved in any sort of leadership, what would you say to them?
Just give it a go. From the outside, some of these structures can seem a little bit opaque, getting involved with RCGP, BMA, all the rest of it. But actually, when you start opening those doors, it's really easy. And there are a lot of colleagues out there who will encourage you to move forward and push you on. Change comes from new, novel ideas, and that comes from new people getting involved and sharing their points of views and opinions. And you as a trainee or someone listening to this, you might have a point of view or some experience that nobody else has that other people will benefit from hearing. So just have a go and get involved. There is a lot of support out there when you start going to those first meetings that are usually free that you can just come along to, or when you first open those doors. So just give it a go.
That's great. Thank you so much, David. It's been really interesting to hear your story. Thanks for sharing with us.
No